The alarm went off at 5:30 a.m. like it always did. I hit snooze once, then dragged myself out of bed at 5:45. My wife Jessica was still asleep, her blonde hair spread across the pillow, breathing softly. I kissed her forehead like I did every morning. She didn't stir. I went through my usual routine: shower, shave, coffee, toast. I packed my lunch, grabbed my keys, called out goodbye to the empty hallway since Jessica never woke up before 7, and walked out the front door at 6:35 a.m. I got in my Toyota Tacoma, started the engine, and backed out of the driveway of our home in Phoenix, Arizona. Then I drove exactly 2 blocks, pulled into a grocery store parking lot, and waited. My name is Marcus Webb. I'm 34 years old and I work as a logistics coordinator for a freight company. I'm the guy who makes sure your Amazon packages arrive on time. It's not glamorous, but it pays well and keeps our household running. Jessica and I have been married for 6 years. No kids yet, we've been trying, but she always said the timing wasn't right. We had a good life, or so I thought. Nice house in a quiet neighborhood, 2 cars, annual vacations to Mexico. We didn't fight much. We didn't do much of anything together lately, actually. She had her yoga classes, her book club, her girls' nights. I had my softball league and poker nights with the guys. We were roommates who occasionally had sex. Comfortable, safe, boring. 3 weeks ago I started noticing things. Small things. Jessica's phone was always face down. She changed her passcode, said she needed something more secure after reading an article about hackers. She started showering at night instead of mornings, said it helped her sleep better. She bought new lingerie, expensive stuff from stores she'd never shopped at before. When I commented on it, she said she was treating herself, that she deserved to feel pretty. I agreed. I didn't think much of it. Then last Tuesday I came home from work at my normal time, 5:15 p.m., and she wasn't there. No note, no text. I called her. She answered, breathless, background noise of traffic. She said she was at her book club and would be home soon. The thing is, her book club meets on Thursdays. It was Tuesday. When she got home at 7:30, she acted normal, kissed me, asked about my day. But her hair was wet and she smelled like hotel soap. I know hotel soap. I travel sometimes for work. It has that generic floral smell, nothing like the fancy stuff we have at home. I didn't confront her. I'm not a confrontational guy. I internalize things, think them through, plan, so I started paying attention. Wednesday morning she mentioned she had a late meeting and wouldn't be home until 8. I said okay. Then I did something I've never done before. I installed a tracking app on her phone. I know it's an invasion of privacy, it's controlling, it's toxic. But something in my gut told me I needed to know the truth. I waited until she was in the shower, grabbed her phone, installed the app in under 2 minutes, and put it back. She never noticed. That evening I watched the tracker. She left work at 4:45 p.m., but instead of heading to a meeting, she drove to the Marriott on Camelback Road. She stayed there for 2.5 hours. Then she came home at 8:10, apologized for being late, said the meeting ran long. I didn't sleep that night. I lay next to her, staring at the ceiling, listening to her breathe, wondering who she'd been with. Thursday I checked the tracker again, straight home from work. Friday, same thing. I started to think maybe I was wrong, maybe she really had been at a meeting Wednesday, maybe the Marriott had a conference room she'd used. Then Saturday happened. Saturday morning she told me she was going to yoga at 10, then meeting her friend Rachel for lunch. She'd be back around 3. I said great, I'd probably watch the game and meal prep for the week. She kissed me, grabbed her yoga mat, and left. I waited 5 minutes, then checked the tracker. She wasn't heading to her yoga studio. She was heading to a residential neighborhood in Scottsdale, an address I didn't recognize. I pulled it up on Google Maps. It was a condo complex. Expensive, modern, the kind of place a single guy with money would live. I sat on the couch holding my phone, watching the little dot that represented my wife stop moving. She was there for 4 hours, 4 hours. She came home at 2:50, face flushed, hair damp again, that same hotel soap smell, except it wasn't hotel soap this time. It was cologne, men's cologne. I could smell it when she hugged me. She said yoga was great and Rachel says hi. I nodded and went back to pretending to watch the game. That night I made a decision. I needed to see it with my own eyes. Tracking apps and suspicions weren't enough. I needed proof, undeniable, in-my-face proof. So I came up with a plan. Monday morning I'd go through my normal routine, leave for work like always, but I wouldn't actually leave. I'd circle back and come home. If nothing was happening, I'd feel like an idiot, but at least I'd know. If something was happening, well, then I'd know that too. Monday morning came. I went through every step of my routine exactly like I described. Alarm, shower, coffee, toast, keys, goodbye. I drove away at 6:35 a.m. I parked 2 blocks away at the grocery store and waited. I gave it 30 minutes. At 7:05 I started getting nervous. Maybe this was crazy. Maybe I was being paranoid. Maybe I should just go to work and forget this whole thing. Then at 7:12 I saw a car drive past the grocery store heading toward our street. It was a black BMW 5 Series. I didn't recognize it. I waited 3 more minutes, then I drove back to our house. The BMW was parked in our driveway, right where I usually park. Some guy was in my spot at my house at 7:15 in the morning. I parked on the street and sat there staring at that car. My hands were shaking. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I wanted to run in there. I wanted to smash the windows of that BMW. I wanted to drag whoever it was out of my house by his throat, but I didn't. I sat there and breathed and thought about what to do next. I could call the cops, report a break-in, but Jessica would just say he was a friend, that I was overreacting. I could go in guns blazing, but I didn't know what I'd find, and I didn't trust myself not to do something I'd regret. So I did something else. I took out my phone and started recording. I got out of my truck quietly, walked up to the front door, and used my key to unlock it as slowly and silently as possible. The house was quiet. I stepped into the entryway and listened, nothing from downstairs. Then I heard it, voices from upstairs, Jessica's voice and a man's voice. Low, intimate, the kind of tones you don't use with a friend. I felt sick. My stomach twisted and I thought I might throw up right there in my own hallway, but I didn't. I held the phone up, kept recording, and walked toward the stairs. Every step felt like it took an hour. I could hear them more clearly now. They were in our bedroom, my bedroom, the room where I slept every night, where we'd made love, where I'd imagined we'd eventually bring home a baby. I got to the top of the stairs and the door was half open. I could see the edge of our bed. I could see clothes on the floor, Jessica's yoga pants, a man's jeans, a dress shirt. I stepped closer. What I saw will be burned into my brain for the rest of my life. My wife was in our bed with a man I'd never seen before. He was tall, fit, dark hair, probably mid-30s. They were tangled up in our sheets, her head on his chest, his arm around her. They weren't having sex at that exact moment, but it was obvious they just had. The room smelled like sweat and cologne and betrayal. I stood there in the doorway holding my phone, and I still don't know how long I watched before I said anything. It felt like hours, but it was probably 10 seconds. Then I spoke, having fun. Jessica's head snapped up. Her eyes went wide. Her face went from flushed and happy to white as a ghost in half a second. She screamed, actually screamed, and scrambled to pull the sheet up over herself. The guy sat up, looked at me, and had the audacity to look annoyed. Bro, what the hell, he said. Bro, I repeated. You're in my bed with my wife and you're calling me bro. Jessica was stuttering, trying to form words. Marcus, I can explain, it's not what it looks like. I held up my phone, still recording. It looks like you're screwing some guy in our bed at 7 in the morning. So unless you've got a really creative explanation, I think it's exactly what it looks like. The guy, whoever he was, started grabbing his clothes. I'm gonna go, he muttered. Yeah, you are, I said, but first, who are you? He looked at Jessica like he was asking permission to speak. She was crying now, full-on sobbing, mascara running down her face. His name is Derek, she whispered. Derek, I said. Nice to meet you, Derek. How long have you been sleeping with my wife? He didn't answer, just pulled his jeans on and grabbed his shirt. Jessica answered for him. 4 months, she said quietly. 4 months. 4 months, I felt like I'd been punched in the chest. I stepped aside and let Derek walk past me. He couldn't even look me in the eye. I followed him down the stairs, watched him grab his shoes by the door and walk out to his BMW. He drove away and I stood there in the driveway in my work clothes at 7:30 in the morning, watching my wife's lover leave my house. When I came back inside, Jessica was coming down the stairs. She'd put on a robe, my robe actually, which felt like another slap in the face. She was still crying. Marcus, please let me explain. Explain what? That you've been cheating on me for 4 months. That you've been bringing him into our home, into our bed. She reached for me and I stepped back. Don't touch me. I didn't mean for this to happen. You didn't mean to accidentally fall onto another guy's dick for 4 months. It just happened. We connected. I felt something I haven't felt in so long. So instead of talking to me, your husband, you decided to have an affair. I was unhappy, Marcus. Then you should have told me. I was shouting now, couldn't help it. You should have said, hey Marcus, I'm unhappy, let's go to therapy, let's work on this. You don't just go out and cheat. She sank onto the couch, head in her hands. You wouldn't understand. Try me. You're always working, you're always tired. We never do anything anymore. We're boring. So you thought screwing Derek would make life exciting. She didn't answer. I looked at her sitting there in my robe, crying, playing the victim, and I felt nothing. No love, no anger, just nothing. I'm filing for divorce, I said. Her head shot up. Marcus, no, please, we can work through this. There's nothing to work through, Jessica. You made your choice. I didn't choose this. I made a mistake. A mistake is forgetting to pick up milk. This is a choice. You chose to lie to me every single day for 4 months. You chose to bring him into our home. You chose to destroy our marriage. She started crying harder. Where does he live? I asked. What, Derek? Where does he live? She hesitated. Scottsdale. The condo I saw on the tracker. She nodded. I turned and walked toward the door. Where are you going? To actually go to work, because unlike you I still have responsibilities. Marcus, wait, I stopped but didn't turn around. I want you out of this house by the time I get home tonight. You can stay with Derek or your parents or whoever, I don't care, but you're not staying here. You can't just kick me out, this is my house too, then I'll leave. Either way, we're not living under the same roof anymore. I walked out, got in my truck, and drove to work. I don't remember the drive. I don't remember walking into the office. I sat at my desk staring at my computer screen, and all I could see was that image of them in my bed. My coworker Amy asked if I was okay. I said I was fine. I wasn't fine. I went to the bathroom and threw up, then I called a divorce attorney. Her name was Patricia Gomez. She had great reviews online, specialized in infidelity cases. I met with her during my lunch break. I showed her the video I'd recorded. She watched it without expression, then looked at me. Arizona is a no-fault divorce state, which means the affair doesn't technically matter for the divorce itself, but it absolutely matters for asset division, and it'll help us if she tries to claim spousal support. Do you own the house together? Yes. Any kids? No. Any prenup? No. She nodded. This is going to be straightforward. She cheated, you have evidence, she has no leverage, we'll push for a clean split. You keep your retirement accounts, she keeps hers, you sell the house and split the proceeds 50-50, or one of you buys the other out. What do you want? I want her to have nothing. Patricia smiled slightly. I understand the feeling, but that's not realistic. What we can do is make sure she doesn't get anything more than what's fair. I'll draft a petition today. You'll need to serve her with papers. How long does this take? Depends on if she fights it. If she agrees to settle, we could be done in 90 days. I went back to work, made it through the rest of the day on autopilot. When I got home at 6, Jessica's car was gone. Most of her clothes were gone. She left her key on the kitchen counter with a note. I'm staying at my parents'. I'm sorry, Marcus. I never wanted to hurt you. I crumpled the note and threw it away. Sorry doesn't unscrew someone else. Sorry doesn't unfuck our marriage. I walked through the house, and everywhere I looked I saw her. Photos on the walls, her books on the shelves, the coffee mug she used every morning still sitting in the sink. I took the sheets off our bed, threw them in the trash, and slept on the couch. The next 3 months were a blur. I served her with divorce papers. She tried calling me 60 times in the first week. I didn't answer. She sent texts begging me to reconsider, saying she'd ended things with Derek, saying she wanted to fight for us. I didn't respond. My lawyer did all the talking. Jessica hired her own attorney and tried to drag things out. She wanted the house. She wanted spousal support. She wanted me to pay her legal fees. Patricia shut it all down. We showed the video, the tracking data, text messages I'd found on our phone records between her and Derek. Her lawyer advised her to settle. 68 days after I walked in on them in our bed, we signed the final papers. The house sold fast. We split the profit. She took her car. I took mine. We divided our bank accounts down the middle. No alimony, no support, clean break. The last time I saw Jessica was at the final signing. She looked smaller, somehow tired. She tried to talk to me. Marcus, I really am sorry. I know you don't believe me, but I am. I looked at her. I believe you're sorry you got caught. That's not fair. You want to talk about fair, Jessica? Fair was me being faithful to you for 6 years. Fair was me working 50-hour weeks so we could have a nice life. Fair was me trusting you while you were screwing someone else in our bed. She started crying again. I didn't stick around to watch. 6 months later, I'm living in a smaller place, a townhouse near Tempe. It's just me and it's quiet and I like it. I started going to therapy, working through trust issues and anger and all the stuff you're supposed to work through after your wife betrays you. I reconnected with old friends, started playing softball again, even went on a couple dates. Nothing serious, I'm not ready for serious, but it's nice to remember that not everyone is a liar. I heard through mutual friends that Jessica and Derek didn't last. Apparently the thrill of sneaking around was the only thing holding them together. Once it was out in the open, they realized they had nothing in common. She's dating someone new now. I don't care. I also heard she tells people that I was controlling, that I didn't give her space to be herself, that the marriage was already over before Derek. It's funny how cheaters rewrite history to make themselves the victim. People ask me if I regret the way I handled it, if I regret installing the tracker or pretending to leave for work or recording that video. I don't, not for a second, because if I hadn't done those things I'd still be living in ignorance, still sleeping next to someone who didn't respect me, still wasting my life on a lie. The truth hurt, but lies hurt worse. At least the truth gave me a chance to start over. Some guys might have tried to work it out, gone to therapy, forgiven the affair. Maybe that works for some people. It wouldn't have worked for me. The second I saw her in that bed with him, everything I felt for her died. You can't come back from that. You can't rebuild trust when the foundation is completely destroyed. So I didn't try. I walked away and I didn't look back. If you've ever had that feeling in your gut that something's wrong, trust it. Don't ignore it. Don't talk yourself out of it. Don't let someone gaslight you into thinking you're paranoid. Your instincts exist for a reason. Mine told me something was wrong and I listened, and it saved me from wasting more years on someone who didn't value me. I'm not saying spy on your partner or assume everyone's cheating. I'm saying if the signs are there, don't be afraid to look for the truth. Because living in doubt is worse than living in pain. At least pain eventually heals. That morning when I pretended to leave for work and came back to a nightmare in my bedroom was the worst morning of my life, but it was also the moment everything changed. It was the moment I stopped being a fool and started being someone who demanded better. And now I'm building a life where I don't have to pretend or doubt or wonder. I know exactly where I stand and it feels good. If this story meant something to you, you're going to love what's coming next. Click that video right there for another story about someone who chose consequences over silence. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time. I post new stories every week. Hit that bell so you never miss one. I'll see you in the next one.